Hello, fellow performers. I'm your naughty performer, playwright, and professor, Eilidh. Welcome to Burlesque Gateway, where we support the shift from gatekeeping to gateways into burlesque, cabaret, and circus arts. Today, let's turn the key and open the door on creating burlesque bios together. So, one of the things I've committed to this year is reading 3 books every kind of quarter, roughly. Like, some things are going to cross over a little bit. Some books will take longer to read than others. That's just the nature of reading and processing and absorbing information and life in general. But from the 3 I've been reading this sort of first quarter, I have just finished the Showbiz Side Hustle Handbook by Nicole Louise Geddes from Performerpreneur, and I found it very helpful. But one of the tasks in it, keep that away from my mouth, one of the tasks in it is to write, if you don't have already, or update your burlesque bio. And I recognised that I needed to do that. I hadn't changed mine for at least a year, and I always feel like doing it every 6 months is pretty good. Occasionally, like if you're a gigging performer getting like a lot of gigs and you want to update at least the end bit that's like, here are the key festivals and events I've done, or here are my upcoming shows. Like, that's always going to be changing month to month, quarter to quarter, however you choose to advertise yourself. But yeah, I haven't really been performing very much recently due to health reasons. And yeah, mine's from like early 2024. And it's not reflective of what I'm doing now. So instead of like getting stuck and being like, I can't move on to the next chapter until I have like the perfect Burly Bio, I just went, right, let's just stream of consciousness, write something, anything, get it down, get it out there, and then we'll come back to it later. So today is coming back to it later. So here's what I wrote, stream of consciousness. This is the first draft. While technically accurate, it's not very interesting, but it is within the 250 words limit, which you could generally stick to with a full bio, but we'll get into like different types of bio a bit later. Eilidh has over 3 decades of experience in community theatre, covering all roles from stage kitten to tech wizard, class instructor to producer. While they first stripped onto a burlesque stage in 2015, having their first flutters with watching shows and copying the moves in their bedroom mirror around 2007-2008, despite the embarrassment of riches in terms of performing art experience, it didn't occur to Eilidh to start performing professionally until 2020, when their work moved on screen, exploring Scottish sensuality on a global stage or Zoom screen. They have performed and taught internationally since then, including some highlights like going from rejected by over 20 dance schools and fitness classes as too disabled to participate in 2018, through accidentally co-founding burlesque classes in a fishing village, to teaching at BurlyCon, the world's biggest burlesque education conference, in 2022. Eilidh's career has had its starring roles and accidental falls into the orchestra pit, with plenty of career breaks needed when they had to focus on healing from illness and injury. They are resilient and unstoppable, a real powerhouse. But Eilidh believes that there are times when the show must not go on, or at least, if it must go on, it can and will go on without them. Moving seamlessly between performing, playwriting, and professoring, Eilidh is a burlesque triple threat and aims to support others on their own unique journeys through their business, Burlesque Gateway. Okay, apart from like a few stumbles with my reading, because yeah, there's some places where I have typed half a word and then had to style it out. um, I I am a write everything and then edit later kind of person. That was actually better than I thought it was. It just feels a bit wordy. Uh, so I'll go back and edit it. But actually, that kind of works as it is for the 250 word bio version, which would be like what you have on your website, what you have in your press release, and then you would have a kind of so yeah, 250 to 300 words. Generally stick to the lower end, 200 words is fine as well. So like I would say like technically you're allowed up to 500 for a bio, but by that point most people aren't interested in reading anymore. Um but you maybe have like a list at the end of like bullet points which takes you up, but it's kind of like here are highlights of their career like performed at such and such festival, um, or taught at BurlyCon. That's my kind of highlight that's gone in there. Um, yeah, so it's kind of like a little bit of like what you've done, what your values are, your style as a performer, all of these things, like what you do, what your skills are, and a little bit of your history. There's no single right way to do this, just like what works for you and what works for your type of performing. Um, Yeah, so I actually like that more than I thought I was going to. But yeah, word count wise, it's about 237, which is fine. For a full bio, I would say 200 to 300 words. Try and hit 250 roughly. A few words over and under is not a big deal. And then you have like a shorter bio, and some people refer that to this as like your artist statement. An artist statement is more about the work you do, and it's a little bit more about your acts in general, your skills in general, what your art is, what your work is, and less kind of about here is who I am as a performer. It's more here is what I do as a performer. And those generally want to be about 50 to 150 words. 100 words is kind of like the ideal length. Again, word counts are guides, not exact. Oh my god, I'm 140 words and I need to get 150. You don't. It's not Pokemon. Just do what works for you. And then there's like a different version of the bio which should be kind of like it's a little bit more like a tagline with some extra information, and this is more like your social media bio. This is more like what people are going to be sharing on Instagram and Facebook and whatever social media platform they're using today, because that changes all the time. It changes all the time. And that generally the word limits on those kind of things are 50. So you want something that's kind of like 25 to 50 words, that's like your name, your tagline, and like a highlight or something you want people to know. And it's slightly different from an intro, which is the other thing you need. But intros are more like you need it's kind of almost like chat room ASL, like age, sex, location. Um, it's kind of more like that. And a stage intro is what you use when you go on stage, and you're gonna have different stage intros for different acts. But effectively, what it needs in it is a fun fact, where you're from, something about your act, and then please welcome to the stage your stage name. And you maybe want your tagline as the fun fact in that. It's kind of similar length to your social media press bio, the kind of thing that's going to go on maybe like a show poster or whatever. Um, that's going to be like, you know, 50 word kind of thing. Probably even less than that, to be honest. because you want some room for the MC to be able to put their own stamp on it. But there's the bit that I want this bit read out. I'm not really gonna do that just now because I've kind of scrapped all my acts and I'm starting again as if I have no acts. It's not 100% true because if somebody said, hey, I want to book you for a gig in a month, I could be like, well, there's these acts that I don't really want to do anymore, but I could do it. Like, I could do it. I still have the costume for it. I still know the choreography. I could go and do that in a show. But I want to come back to like act intros later once I know what my acts are moving forward. And I've got some fun mood boards and things to share with you later. But yeah, that's a not today thing. Right, so to get like a little bit of help and inspiration, I've done a quick Google on the old internet to find a few tutorials on how to do a burlesque bio. I also found like a bunch of people who you can go to get your bio written, and longer term I want to go and test some of those services out and make a list and be like, hey, if you're struggling to write a Burly Bio, you can spend 50 quid and go see this person, or this person is amazing and they are worth 200 quid that they're asking for the service, but you'll get like everything done for you. Um, so yeah, I know like Mixed Pucks of Plenty does a workshop on this. It's been at BurlyCon a few times, and I know of a few other people that do it, but I haven't taken their workshop, or I just have a link. So I'm not going to recommend them until I've done a bit of my own research into that. But if you want to go, just type into your search bar like burlesque bio, how to write one, or written with you, or workshop on how to create a burlesque bio. But I found like a couple of blogs, and the one I like the most for this is Miss Kitty's Meow. And it kind of there's a blog, and I'll put it in the comments, a link to it, and it breaks down on stuff like what is an artist bio, where you might need it and use it. And these are kind of like the key points. Again, 250 to 500 words for your artist bio, your Burly bio. Again, I kind of err towards the 200 to 300 words end of that, but that's because I've done a lot of like theatre work, and it tends to be closer to that within theatre. And if you want to cross over between different types of venue and different types of stages, it is kind of better to keep it at that end. But if you're an amazing international performer who needs that 500 words and people are going to hire you and be hooked on what you're saying, go for it. But I would keep the actual text bit 250, and then if you want more than that, career highlights, bullet point festivals, and that's much more readable for most audiences. Okay, so in the Miss Kitty's Meow blog, it's the section An Artist Bio, What Even Is It? And it's this kind of 3 points of your career or performance highlights and the experience you bring to the stage, and or outlining how you see yourself as a performer, your aesthetic, inspiration points, and or your inspiration and your journey to the stage. And that's kind of like what I've already covered. And then it goes more in depth into stuff. And yeah, it breaks down short bios, MC introduction, and then your artist and performer statement. So yeah, your short version, 25 to 50 words, tagline, quote from a reviewer testimonial, a little bit more about your stage style, your presence, rather than the factual career highlights. And then it might also be used as your MC intro if shows haven't asked for a separate one. And then, yeah, you want the short statement to be that 25 to 50 about your acts individually, and they'll be used as your stage intros. And then there's also some helpful resources in it of like guides to writing a good bio. Okay, we like that one. Okay, and the second one, which is less about just like what is it and roughly what do you need in it, and is more kind of like practically asking questions, is Miss Hollyhock's Writing a Burlesque Intro and Bio blog. Again, I will link that in the description. So again, it talks more about your intro versus your bio. I'm not really looking at the intro stuff today because I'm going to do those per act and I need to finish developing those acts first. And then it goes into taglines. So my tagline is your naughty performer, playwright, and professor, and I kind of delete that as appropriate depending on what I'm doing. For these, I kind of keep it in because I'm doing all three things at Burlesque Gateway. But when I used to perform under the stage name Billy Blouse, my tagline was less than able seaman, because it was a pun on a military rank, and Billy was a lot about me understanding who I was as a disabled young adult, and now I don't need that character as much because I feel like we don't need the self-depreciation anymore, and the understanding of our place in the world, because we're there now. We've done a lot of healing. So then you go down to the writing a burlesque bio section, and I'm actually going to ask myself these questions and then write something up and then kind of take the two versions apart. So the first one, although I didn't use Miss Kitty's Meow blog for that, I basically wrote one that was in that format, and then I will write this more question and answer format from Miss Hollyhock, and then I'll make a third one from the highlights of the two that makes more sense. Okay, so question one, what inspired you to begin performing? So I think we kind of covered that in my 10-year Burlyversary video from last week, which I'll link in the comments as well, just so you can like go back and see it if you've just found this on your For You page. But yeah, like a lot of it is I wanted to be a horror host. I was inspired by old Hollywood movies and musicals and movie musicals. I was inspired by like 60s, 70s, 80s music, and music videos in particular, which is very relevant to some of the work that's going to like come out of my burly closet as I feel ready to share it with you, and as it kind of gets to a shareable stage and isn't just a bunch of notes on a bit of paper that only make sense to me and I could read them to you and nobody else would know what I was talking about. But yeah, that's kind of like, that's my inspiration. And also like circus and clown. I think I'll do a similar to the 10-year Burlyversary, like what my gateways into burlesque were. I think I'll do a what my gateways into circus were video, because I think that's quite important to my journey as well. Probably do it gateways into theatre, do all of the kind of like what inspired me videos, and then also do one that's like what my gateways into after performing and actually becoming a professional performer were. But those are all future ideas. And that's what questions do. They like spark inspiration and they get these things flowing and coming out. Not useful to what I'm doing right now, but useful to the future. Okay, second, what are some events or festivals you've been part of? So I started out in Kapow in 2015, but that's like quite a long time ago now. That's 10 years ago. That's 10 years ago. So that's kind of not really relevant to now. You can have that on your website if you want to put everything, but I would suggest just doing like a highlight. You don't need every single bar gig you ever did. If you've only done 5 bar gigs, put every single gig you did on. But if you've been doing it for a long time and this is a revamp, or you've been doing it for fun for a long time and you're now becoming professional, just put the highlights. So it would be things like, yeah, BurlyCon 2022, teaching there. It would be training with Pearl Noir. It would be doing courses at New York School of Burlesque online and doing their student showcases. It would be Vancouver International Burlesque Festival. I don't remember what year that was. It'll be in my record somewhere, sometime between 2020 and 2023 though. Sometime in that period. It would be stuff like 2024 Disabilities Festival. It would be being included last year in Trixie Blue's Newcastle Burlesque Festival, because that was one of my, like, I heard about it and went, oh, I want to do that. And then I watched it and went, oh, I really want to do that. And then I did it. So that was like on my dream festivals list. So yeah, these are some, just like pull out some of the highlights, put them in there, or put them as bullet points at the end. Whatever works for you. And then, have you toured or travelled? Are you a national or international performer? So international, but digital. Digitally international. Since 2020. I've only physically done shows in the UK, but I have travelled and performed via the magic of the internet over the last, like, 5 years. So it counts. And then it gives some example bios, and anything else. Yeah, you need a condensed version for promotional purposes. You want 4 or 5 different versions. Your long version, a couple of different short versions. So, like, I'll probably do short versions that are for the naughty performer, the naughty playwright, and the naughty professor separately, as well as, like, the long general one. And then you've got your micro versions that are all, like, to do with either your skills or your acts. So, cool, brilliant. Okay, I have written something again. This is like a first draft version. I've got like about 200 words for the bio part, and then we take it closer to 300 with the highlights. I tried to pick 10, I ended up with 11. Actually, I tried to only pick 5, but because I've been around so long, it was too difficult. Different people do this in different ways. Your highlights might just be, here's the last 5 shows I did. Or it might be, over 10 years, every year, here's one thing that I did that I really liked. Or it's, you know, you could do a full list of them all, but that can be quite overwhelming. So, yeah. I tried not to put any training in there unless it was, like, student showcase. That's for, like, your full CV, which is a different thing. But you need a little bio for your CV, which is probably more like the 50 to 100 word one. That's more like a kind of personal statement almost. But again, that's different. I do have a CV. It does need to be slightly updated because I've done some more things since I wrote it, because it's me and you cannot contain me. I might not be well paid for what I do yet, but I do what I do well and often. And it's only yet. We'll get there. So this is what I've written with more of the structure given to me by Miss Hollyhock's questions. And I think it works better as a Burly Bio. Like, I like the other one. I like the first one I did. But I think this one is more ready to be public facing. It'll need a bit of tweaking, but I'm happy enough to go forward with this and commit to putting it on my website the next day I have for like updating that. Welcome to the magical, mystical world of Eilidh, your naughty performer, playwright, and professor. Enter this curiously beautiful cosmos of Scottish sensuality, or Scotsense, inspired by vintage B-movie hosts with a hint of hammer glamour, dirty pretty goth punk and dad rock, and the dark side of the golden age of silver screen movie musicals. Like a tartan chameleon or velvet donkey, they have taken on many roles over the last 3 decades, both on and off stage. From stage kitten to tech wizard, dance class instructor to screen dance film producer, Eilidh can wear any performing arts hat that's thrown their way with style and panache. They first stripped their way onto a nerdlesque stage in 2015, though after a few falls into the orchestra pit of life, their professional burlesque and circus career only took off from 2020, when the industry shifted to the digital screen, allowing international training, performing and teaching to become accessible, while Eilidh's work became even more experimental than anyone truly thought possible. Likened to Philomena Kunk, if the pump up the jam bit was sexier, and often billed as, and now for something entirely different, Eilidh's performance style can be described as Ivor Cutler adjacent. Highlights to date include, and this is where you would kind of change them around depending on what you were doing. Regular cast member at Kapow Cosplay Burlesque from 2015 to 2017. Co-founded Snook Burlesque 2019 to 2022. New York School of Burlesque Student Showcases 2020-2021. On Fife Artist in Residence 2021. Vanishing Point Theatre's Everyone is Creative Commission 2021. Vancouver International Burlesque Festival 2021. I found it. Waypoint One's Cartography and Cabaret at Dundee Rep Stripped 2022. Virtual BurlyCon 2022, the Disabilities Festival 2024, Newcastle Burlesque Festival 2024, Unlocked Burlesque Gateway 2025, and beyond. So this feels like an achievement. That's kind of my 11th one. I would maybe put that more in as like a call to action of unlock your burlesque gateway at, and then send you to my website. But it's a work in progress. All of these things are always works in progress. They're living documents and they'll change and grow as you change and grow. But I'm happy enough with that version that it's at least 90% as it is going to be what I'm using until I need to update it again. That feels right, and that feels like I could put that as my bio on my website. We'll do the editing down to like quick and dirty social media ones and like shorter act ones in the future, but that's my Burly Bio for 2025, or at least this half of it. What's remaining of the year. Yeah, I'm pleased with that. I'm quite pleased with myself. I deserve a gold star. Ding! I might even put one there. Or I could put a big gold star magnet in the middle of that board and I can point to it when I deserve it. Or up there. That's more awkward. Anyway, I have decided what my sign off is, and it's just how I end emails. Ta-ta for now!